All right, please be joined this time by one of the best coaches around, Coach Dub Maddox. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate you having me on, Chris.
Coach, you made a name for yourself as a phenomenal quarterback coach, an office coordinator, head coach. You've done all those things. But the people that probably are listening that do know of you know about some of the things they follow you on or read some of your books and some of the things that you come up with through your R4 system and that. So before we get started, give me a little brief history lesson on how that came about and where that process is.
Yeah, so I started coaching in the year 2000 and started out as a receiver coach at Broken Arrow High School. And from there, went on to coach a year in Florida, in Naples, Florida. Opened up a new school down there at Palmetto Ridge and coach receivers there. And then got invited to go back home to Oklahoma and coach for a historic program under Hall of Fame head coach Alan Trimble at Jenks. And I spent 13 years there under him. And in that time, I always wanted to be a quarterback coach. I played that as a young kid and wanted to get into the quarterback realm. So I kind of started searching for the best trainers out there in the country. And at that time, around 2005, the mechanics, quarterback mechanics, there was a lot of different philosophies out there. And it was really hard to find a coach, even at the highest levels, that could explain the whys behind throwing mechanics. And so I ran into a set of DVDs by the man named Darren Slack.
Mm-hmm.
And Darren at the time was one of the first quarterback coaches that had a national camp circuit. At the time, there's really three major guys across the country that were doing that. Now there's one on every corner. You got them all over the place. And Darren just really had a system and a philosophy that always explained the why behind everything. And it was biomechanically based. And I went to one of his camps down there, was just bought in on his system and how he taught. And so he really created just the framework for me to help accelerate development in players. And it went farther beyond quarterback mechanics. It went on just how my philosophy is as a position coach now and as a coordinator. And so that's really where my career really took off, was just attaching myself to an expert mentor, learning from him. And then we started creating and collaborating on just better ways to teach the quarterback game and the mental side. And that's really where R4 was created. It was a decision-making system to help quarterbacks accelerate decisions under pressure and vision. And we really worked on that over the years. And from there, I kind of took it from him and continued to build on it for play calling and systems for offensive design. So that's really how it all started. But I can't thank Darren enough for all he gave me, and just I think it's very important for young coaches out there to find those guys that are innovators and that have a different way of thinking, and learn as much as you can from them.
Coach, I got a few guys, a few buddies that are quarterback guys, and they swear by you. Darren Slack too before, but I mean, this is so you guys that don't know Coach, you need to learn. I think what I was impressed with, because I'm a fan too, is so much mechanic stuff didn't get into the coverage and the teaching the quarterbacks what they're looking at and what they're looking for. And I think you guys, you have expanded upon that. And so it's not just the quarterback coach talking about their arm angle and where we're getting into what are they looking at. And I always thought that as a play caller, and I wasn't a quarterback specific coach, but I called the play, and I thought both were important. I totally understood the need to go to individual and teach them how to throw the football, but we also needed them to understand what's open, right? And so, we would have to do this for 10 or 12 hours for you to explain all this, I know. But I'm a new quarterback coach. The head coach just threw it at me. I'm trying to be somebody. I'm you at Jinx, 20 years ago. What do I need to be doing right now? Like, what's something these young guys need to be doing right now? New quarterback coach.
Well, I think the first thing is that there's really no excuse for coaches these days not to be really good at what they do, because the information is so much more accessible. And so that's really, I was lucky enough to, get right in where, the internet was kind of coming online. You had chat rooms that were coming online. And so there was a lot of new information that was being shared that really wasn't accessible unless you knew, you're on the inside of an NFL organization or a high power 5 school. So I think young guys, they just need to, there's a lot of materials out there on mechanics and system design. I'd recommend, there's all kinds of coach tube courses. It's really easy to find guys that really know what they're doing. I would just study and use that to develop your own philosophy on what you think's best. I think the best thing, Coach, that for me was when I worked with Darren. He did 20 to 22 camps a year, starting from January to July. And in the summer, we would do a circuit of I think it was 18 camps. And so I just said, Coach, if you can just pay my way, and give me a room, I'll work for free. And I just went out and, we would do camps with anywhere from, 40 to 50 to 80 quarterbacks. And it was being stuck on the back nine of a soccer field, coaching a group of fourth graders, that really helped me sharpen my skills on how to identify different ways to get through to kids and experiment with different drills and start slowly. You start to develop this eye to see, what the non-negotiables are and how to coach a kid through that. And so I would recommend a coach, trying to do as much of that as he can, whether it be attaching yourself from a local trainer that really knows what he's doing, or finding a good quarterback coach and volunteering your time and start learning to train kids. And really the video analysis and slowing it down kind of helps you see those things faster. But that would be my recommendation if you're a young coach that's looking to improve your ability to teach mechanics.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things. You only get better at it by doing it and practicing it. And so I think that was a good point, Coach. But I love, anybody's listening to this has heard me say over and over that, it's very, very important that you utilize what resources you have now. And I'm not saying that because I do a podcast and we don't listen anymore to me. That's fine. But there's no excuse for people not to find ways to learn. When you started at Jinx, you had some great resources there, but you didn't have many opportunities to go out and see other people. And now, I mean, it's really an infinite amount of resources. Actually, maybe overload a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be hard. It's harder now to really filter through because you only have so much time. So, trying to pinpoint who the key guys are that know what they're doing, and so make sure you're not wasting your time, I think is the challenge now.
Yeah, it really is. Along that line, and before I ask this, I'll give the full disclosure. Coach did not ask to have an advertisement. I'm just going to advertise for him. So if I was new and I did hear that Maddox was a great quarterback coach and I wanted to learn from you, where would I start? What do you suggest the first thing somebody would do? Like, is there one book they need to go first? Is there the Coach 2 course? What do you think you need to do if you're really trying to start at the ground level?
Yeah, probably the best entry point. I've written 4 books on quarterback play and offensive design. Those are available on our website at r4footballsystem.com. And then you can go on our website and have numerous courses. I don't have anything on Coach 2, but I kind of put everything on my own website. But I have a quarterback school there that we take you through how we teach our quarterbacks from January through March. And we have a 120-page booklet manual. So I take you through exactly how I teach my guys and install the R4 system. And then we have coaching resources as well. If you want to learn how we game plan and play call and how we build offensive system design, that's not really tied into a offensive philosophy. It's more of an operating system. See, like I didn't want to create or sell an offense. I wanted to sell an operating system that teaches you a framework to use what you have at your school to make sure you're doing the best thing possible. So I think that's what kind of sets R4 apart from other guys, is that it's not air raid, it's not wing T. It's really you can do whatever you want. It's just a way to accelerate those better.
Right, and really, yeah, it works with any system. We've used some of this. It's great. It's great. I
appreciate it.
I would advise anybody not looking. Actually, if you've been a coach a long time, I know I've asked some new guy questions, but if you've been around a while, you still a great resource if you haven't been exposed to that. Coach, quarterback question here, and I'm gonna get on to some other stuff, but what's different? Maybe what's different from when you were starting out? What's not just what you're seeing on defense, but what do you see as maybe something that is a challenge for you right now that maybe you didn't predict 10 or 12 years ago?
Well, I think, you said defensively, but I think, what we're seeing on Friday nights now, you're seeing on Saturdays and Sundays, at least at top levels. And that's, whether you're in Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, and that comes with the information that's accessible to guys. So I think defenses are doing a much better job of clouding the picture for the quarterback and changing front structures and taking guys out of conflict. And so I think as a coach, you really got to be dialed in on finding ways to simplify for your quarterback, but given enough adaptability with your play calls and in your system that you use to get him to the best space possible. So that's been the biggest challenge for me the last couple of years is creating different processes for my quarterback to make sure he's getting the ball in the best space possible. I went from Jinx to being a head coach 2 years at a 2A school, private school in Oklahoma, and then came back to the 6A and went to our crosstown rival at Union High School. And in those 2 years, there was a magnificent leap in what I saw defensively at the 6A1 level versus just 2 years after that. It was just a lot more versatility, a lot more disguising and a lot more different, simulated pressures and variations. And so it took me a year. That was a COVID year to kind of get back caught up, to get my guys dialed in.
Yeah, you know, defenses the defense have really gotten better in the last 5 or 10 years, and I think what I've seen is their ability to adjust immediately. What we did, much like you, I kind of knew some of the secrets 15 years ago or so, and we won some games for that. I would be connected to some people and learn some things, and I felt like some certain formation, a certain look, or something we were doing would work really well, maybe for the entire season, and it would be next year when they'd have a better plan for it. And now it feels like you have a pretty good plan, but you better have a second half plan, because they're going to do a pretty good job on what you got in. And is that what you guys are seeing? I think that's what I hear a lot from my friends here.
Yeah, I think too, Chris, I don't know how it is in Georgia, but, we can use sideline replay video
Yeah,
on our
we can
lines.
too.
And then, with all the huddle tools and how they've grown their analytics stuff, it's just, they're going to be dialed into your tendencies. And, you're going to see maybe that shot on that first series, and you're going to come back and they're going to see it too on the sideline. So, you got to make sure you're staying one step ahead of those guys. And it's just a lot harder to stay at that one step ahead, where, like you said, in the previous 5-10 years ago, it wasn't until next season until they caught up, or now it's the next series they're caught up. So I think and it makes it fun. That's part of the game. But I think that's what you got to be really schooled up on as an OC when you're calling plays.
Coach, you're two phenomenal places for people that are listening from Georgia that aren't familiar with Oklahoma. These are Jinx and Union, two of the best teams in the country. What's some common themes of some of these great teams you've been a part of? What's a common theme of some championship teams? It doesn't even have to be quarterback or offensive play. Just what have you seen?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, Chris, is they're operated by a head coach that has a strong faith, and they have a strong character. I think that's important. That ship's being steered by a man that has a strong belief in his purpose and his passion. He loves kids, and I think that's critical. I think the other thing is the administrative support. I mean, from the superintendent on down, those administrators are supporting football and promoting it, and they understand the value of a good football program. I think the community support is the other thing that you see when you're at a good program. It's the support of the community and the parents. They're bought in, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure their son has a good experience. And then you obviously have good players, and that's all attract that attracts to that tradition, those winnings. But I think that's really the thing. It's just having the guy in the seat that's a high character guy, hires good men with the same philosophy around them, the administrative support, and then the community support, and then obviously you got to have athletes.
I ask this question a lot because it's interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to others, but I ask it to a lot of people that have won a lot of games or been deep in the playoffs many times. Something you think is the key to getting better as the season goes on? I see a lot of teams not, including some of the ones I coach, by the way. I don't mean that critical. I just mean I think there's a real science to getting better as the season goes on. And people that are typically playing late in the season, like you guys have all the time, it's not just that you got good players. I mean, you do have some good players, but it's not just that. What do you think's the key to that?
I think there's a few. One of them, I think, is how you practice, obviously, but it's really making sure that second huddle is getting quality reps. And I've been, seeing places or talked to coaches where, all the focus is really on that first huddle, and everybody else is, JV games. Coaches don't really like coaching JV. But the places and the teams I see winning, those coaches, I mean, our varsity staff coaches JV, and that's probably how it is at most places, but we coach JV games just like it's a Friday night, and we coach those kids hard. I think that's important. I also think, having a good, athletic training staff and keeping your guys healthy is critical. I think, one of the things that we've done the last couple of years is we have those GPS units that a lot of colleges have, and we can track the mileage that our high mileage kids are getting. So that's one of the things I didn't really, understand early on. And even tracking my quarterbacks throws, I've really hurt my quarterbacks in years past by not tracking the number of reps they're getting in a week. And we get in the playoffs, and, he didn't have the same zip on the ball as he did week 1 or 2. And so I think that's something that with the technology that's available now, or just, making sure you're charting the reps, making sure that you're keeping those guys fresh, and really making sure, one, that they're going hard, but limit to those reps. So I think that's really the two things, just how you practice, making sure you're developing those young guys, making sure that JV program is strong, and then obviously taking care of your body through the season and making sure you're not wearing guys down.
Coach, being a quarterback guy, an OC, a head coach, and all this, what do you think about how long is the individual? How long are you getting just your quarterbacks in practice, or what is your belief on that?
Yeah, so really, the only time I get him by himself is really when it's special teams. So special teams, I can buy that Indy time. But everything we do in practice is with either the running backs, receivers. We're always working with a
Yeah,
unit of guys, and so a lot of my individual time with just my quarterbacks comes in the summer.
yeah,
And so we spend a lot of time with throwing certain routes, or maybe throwing in fade nets, working on our timing trajectory there, and then obviously in the film room. I think that's really the time where I get a lot of my individual with my kids. But in the season, it's really special teams time that I buy that one-on-one to do those individual things.
yeah. I love the individual, what I would call individual, but it'd be like quarterbacks and running backs together, receivers by themselves, and quarterbacks, receivers together, running backs by themselves. Um, Coach, I'll get you out on this. What's next for the quarterbacks? What do you think is going to really be important over the next 5 years as people are trying to develop quarterbacks?
I think for me it's the mental aspect of just cognition, of just how do you process under pressure, and that's really what R4 is built upon. But I think training the eyes of the quarterback, I think, is one of the most underutilized or undercoached parts of the position. And I'd recommend coaches, standing in front of your quarterback, whether it be in scale or 7-on-7 or team, and when you're snapping in the ball, just watch his eyes, and you would be shocked at how many times he's not looking where he's supposed to be, or even looking at the ground. And so I think, as I think vision's critical with all the different movements and things that defenses are doing. And I think really for me, the biggest jump that we've had the last couple of years is teaching my quarterbacks protections and understanding protections, and even putting the onus on him now where my guy can call the best protection, or at least know where his weakness is within a protection. I think that's important for high school kids that not many guys do. They kind of, a lot of teams leave it on the line themselves, or just leave it on the coach. But with so many different things defense is doing, I think it's important to understand where he's strong and where he's weak in his protection. And that's just a huge weapon when your quarterback understands that component of the game in the passing game.
Yeah, I think you're right, Coach. I think you're right. If anybody's interested in Coach Maddox stuff, they can go to r4footballsystems.com. I really do endorse it. It's some good stuff. I've had several people that follow you, Coach, and I've never heard any of them regret it. I'll put it that way.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've really done a great job, and really been on the cutting edge of that, and putting it in a way people can understand. And I didn't ever expect I would be doing this kind of stuff, but now that I am, I even appreciate that more. I realize what all you're doing. So appreciate what you're doing, Coach. I really do. And
appreciate your stuff too, Chris. We've gotten a lot of stuff from your resources, and I'll just do a plug for you. We had, Coach Leopold from Kansas in our office the other day, and we had your book on the situations on our desk, and he was looking at it. He's like, "What is this?" And he was flipping through that, and I was telling him about it, and he's like, "I'm going to get this." So we're doing the best we can to promote your stuff as well, because it's really helping us too and helping other people. So
I appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah.
You guys have done an awesome job, man. I'm big fans of some Oklahoma football. At that high level Oklahoma football, some big time football, man. I really enjoy it. I get to see it every now and then. If I can ever help you guys out, let me know. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Coach.
No problem, Chris. We'll talk to you later. See you,
Take
man.
care.
Bye-bye.